Okay, and welcome back to Tech Days. Today we are having a look at the private cloud, and this afternoon session, so far we've had a look at Orchestrator, we've had a look at SCVMM, and we've also had a quick look at Service Manager. Now we're going to have a quick look at Operations Manager. Andrew?
No, we're not. We're going to answer that question.
We're going to answer that question, absolutely.
Right, we had two questions in the break. Whoever it was asked us about dynamic CRM and service case management. Can you drop us an email? What's the email address again?
ukitpro@microsoft.com. That's going to be a longer answer than we can possibly go into right now. And we're going to have to go away and do a little bit of research for that, so we'll do that. However, we did also have a question about Orchestrator. Orchestrator is a 32-bit app, and will that create problems with SCVMM 2012 as it's a 64-bit application?
So here's Orchestrator, which is where I was just designing my runbooks, running on Windows Server 2012.
Absolutely 64-bit OS, obviously.
With the SCVMM service running automatically. So far, no trouble there. Might have some other problems in my demos this afternoon. So we have Windows on Windows.
Absolutely, yep.
So
we
we're
can
fine.
do 62-bit, 32-bit, and 64-bit.
So don't worry about that. In the normal world, of course, yes, you'd have your runbook designer maybe running on a Windows 8 VM, and then you deploy to a service environment. But I've actually collapsed everything. In fact, on this Stratus virtual machine I'm running this afternoon, I've got VMM on here, I've got Orchestrator, the service, and the runbook designer, and I've also got app controller, which we haven't really shown you yet.
But we will get to that very soon, won't we?
We're going to get to that towards the end of the day, because I kind of want to bring it all back together again, Simon, in the last session. However, back to where we are now, which is Operations Manager, which has been around for ages.
It has.
MOM back in the day, wasn't it, Simon?
Absolutely, yep. It used to be called MUM.
And I think people still affectionately return to it as those names. It's evolved rather than completely been revolutionised. It still looks very familiar, but a couple of interesting little things in there. One as a result of acquisitions, one as a result of listening to what people were trying to do with Operations Manager, and the kind of people that were doing the work with it. So let's dig into that. It says he's playing Spot the Clicker again. There we go. So what is fundamentally different about Microsoft's approach to running clouds is that we care about what's happening inside the application. Now, that might, for many people, mean just what's happening running inside a Windows server, the services and applications that are running on our servers. But that also applies to, you know, if we had Apache running on Red Hat, that'd be fine too. We can deal with that as well in Operations Manager. But we don't think that a virtual machine, just having a virtual machine's health is sufficient. We've got basic monitoring in Server 2012 to tell us what's happening inside a virtual machine as far as CPU, networking, and so on and so forth is concerned. But we're actually interested in the fact that when we want to go into an application, is it running properly? Is everything okay?
Absolutely. We're going to care about more than not just the health inside the virtual machine or just inside the application. We're going to want to monitor the health of the virtualization environment, the Hyper-V host as well.
Yep.
But that's not going to be our entire focus. We're going to want to manage the whole thing end to end.
Because we don't care. If users' emails stop working, they don't care. What we need to do is we actually need to be able to triage and drill down to the problem wherever it happens to be occurring. God forbid it's the host, it might just be a virtual machine, it might just be a service on a virtual machine. And a quick restart will get us going there. So that then plays into the power of Operations Manager, and some would say its weakness.
Well, absolutely. Much of that power comes from its management packs. Those management packs allow you to hook into all different kinds of systems. You can go and hook into your switches, you can go and hook into your SANs, you can bring information in about what's happening in your virtualization environment. But obviously, that turns on a lot of alerting by default, doesn't it?
It does, and it really does depend on who's written the management pack and what they were thinking when they wrote it. So there can be occasions where product teams inside Microsoft think you want to know about every possible problem that's going to occur, say, with SQL Server. So you install this management pack, and it suddenly starts telling you that TempDB hasn't been backed up. Well, actually, it probably wouldn't do that, but you know what I mean, yep. Simon. There's going to be, it's going to tell you about every database. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, well, I'm only interested in knowing when certain databases are backed up and when certain ones aren't. So which of my production databases, which of my production instances. So you start to tune a management pack. And the way to do that is probably do it inside a sandbox environment, and not to change the management pack that you bought or downloaded, because they're usually frozen. They're locked. You want to override them in your own management pack, and that way when we issue a new management pack, your changes don't get lost. You know, I don't want to go into a deep dive on this. We've got some great MVPs who talk about this: Patrick Lowndes, Gordon McKenna, Damien Flynn, to name a few, who have written books and run pretty successful business on this. So start small and then grow to it. Don't just suddenly deploy every management pack that you can see for every bit of fabric you've got out there. You will get lost in the noise, and the real problems will elude you because like that important letter in amongst all your junk mail, you won't know which one to open.
Yep, absolutely.
So, but on the other hand, there are a whole load of people who are writing management packs. One of the interesting examples is this company called Veeam, who do really good backup and management software, traditionally associated with VMware. Well, they do a really good management pack for managing VMware inside Operations Manager, because about half the people I talk to running VMware are typically running Operations Manager inside, because they want to know what's happening inside their machines. So what we've done is a deal with Veeam. If you buy a System Center, you get 10 Veeam licenses for their management pack, so you can manage 10 VMware servers, which is quite good. So that's one example. If you go and talk to HP or Dell, they'll give you management packs because they recognise that whatever it is you're using, you probably want to use it, and they're not going to be able to necessarily, if you use their management tools, you might not be able to see everything else that you've got in your data center. Obviously, we might have a standard server vendor, but then you look at the HPs and Dells of this world and the IBMs of this world, they own switch vendors, they own this vendors, storage vendors, and so on and so forth. So it can all get quite complicated. And the good thing about Operations Manager is you can manage a hell of a lot of different stuff from one place. So one of the things that's really new I want to come to first is that one of the areas perhaps where we have been a little bit weak is understanding what's going on with the network. Often it is the network. Now usually that's a separate body of people. But nonetheless, back to our diagram we showed earlier where we're doing all that triage and what have you, it would be good to know that the network might be a problem. And then you might lay that off to the networking team as a second line task, for example. So our networking has got a lot better. So we can obviously just talk to SNMP devices and so on and so forth. We've got management packs as well from the various vendors, the Cisco's and Force 10s and F5. Yeah, people. But what we're able to do is we can crawl those switches and we can actually get a visualization of our network stack, which is quite good. So it's a discovery process, and then obviously we can monitor what links are going well and what aren't going so well, and then visualize that. So actually, probably best actually if we well, I've got a picture here, but actually it might be good if we just jump onto Operations Manager and have a quick look at that.
So we're just changing over to one of our remote machines here so that we can have a quick look inside the network. Hopefully that's going to get picked up.
Okay.
Machine 3, maybe 2.
2. I'll hit 2.
Try and change that to 3 for me.
Check. Did you change all of these switches around while I was having my coffee?
Try 4. Try 4.
Trying 4.
There you go. It's on 4.
It's on 4. Ah, right. Okay then. I'll what is that? Blue? Is it? I'll just move my piece of blue tape onto the.
Probably a good plan to shift that around again.
I'm sure they. Oh, yeah, there's a problem. If you nip out for a break, things change. Right, that's there then. Okay, no, I am. Right. Okay, so Operations Manager, here it is. As you see, it hasn't significantly changed. What's going on here? Right, so if I just nip down here to my managed resources, the first thing actually I can see is that because I've got a management pack for Virtual Machine Manager in here, I can now pick up the clouds that I declared in Virtual Machine Manager.
Yeah.
So have I got a healthy cloud? Sounds rather strange, doesn't it? But you get the idea. Yes, I've got private cloud 29, and we can see the maximum. Well, we can see all the properties from Virtual Machine Manager. So you'd expect that to happen, really. I mean, it's supposed to be a suite of tools, so
pulling in the basics as you'd expect.
Yeah, but health is important too. So we can have a look at its health. We can then go into the health of services that we've got running on VMM. It's not a normal, it's not a proper web conference unless somebody's phone rings, is it? We're really trying to emulate a live environment here, even though you're not in the room with us, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. And obviously, due to impending arrivals, I'm not actually able to turn my phone off, so
No,
that was
no.
not the...
You had another Surface delivered?
I've got another Surface delivered. That's not the arrival that I'm waiting for. The baby arrival has a 999 approach when it rings, so I know exactly what it is. However, we were looking at service at
services. So this is the stock traded service we were looking at earlier, running on 4 machines actually in this case. So we can see that interoperability going in between the two. If I now go into my network summary dashboard a bit further down here under network monitoring, we can see the response times of our IP addresses without having to do all that rather fiddly IP config malarkey. Yeah, so you could do that 100 times on your 100 VMs, Simon, but I don't think that would work too well. I can then go and look at a particular IP address, the Black Diamond Extreme. I'm not sure that's all about. We can see everything that we need to know about this. I guess that's a switch. I've never heard of them. And then we can then go into the diagram view on the right-hand side, and we can look at it. And notice on the right-hand side, so I keep pointing with this. We haven't got zoom in on here, have we? On the right-hand side, we've got node tasks. We can do an SMP get. We can do a walk. We can open a telnet console on there, and we can see it's connected to something else. Because at the moment, I've set the hops at the top of the screen, just up here, to 1.
So it's only ever going to look for one more network hop after that point in time.
Yeah, but if I increase that now, we can see the big picture.
Ah, okay. So we start to be able to get a map view of our entire network, and obviously, in order to
and they're green, Simon.
Completely, absolutely. So in order to be able to see this view of our network, this is telling us that all the connectivity in that network is working optimally, and it's also telling us where all those nodes are. But critically, this is not the same view that maybe the network guys have got. They might have their own tooling, which they're using to get this view. This is us just being able to build up our own view of what's happening.
And obviously, this is also a heterogeneous view as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you know, if you have got different switch vendors, then that can be an issue. So we can drill into these individual environments, and we can navigate further. If I go out one more hop here, and we can see actually there's a red line appearing there. So actually, probably the next thing I'd want to do is dive onto that box there.
Really,
but I don't think it's the switch itself, because that Windows machine looks like it's okay, and you can now see the peripheral edge devices. Yeah. So nice, easy, simple networking view. We're getting no sound from Simon.
Yeah, my mic had obviously just managed to turn itself off there along the way. Okay. Very handy. We'll just fix that.
Also silent. Yes, absolutely right. So that's just a quick look at the exciting world of networking.
Absolutely.
Let's
so
dive back onto
pull back across into number 1, number 3. Yay.
Yay. Right. So the next thing we probably want to move on to is with our management pack approach, we can see not just the Microsoft world, we can see the Linux world. Now, we've actually got quite a lot of Linux integration anyway, because we are able to put our own integration components into the Linux kernel, so we can virtualize them. But there's also basic Linux management using SSH. We can get into a machine, we can get metrics back. And we can manage a variety of databases. I think there's a little Oracle icon up there, there's a little Java icon up there. So, and there is also third-party tools vendors. Some of those management packs you might have to buy, of course, and some of them are going to be free to install. So if you go and buy another company and they have to be running something else, then that's good. And equally, if you're running on our stuff, we've got a really good story there as well. So we can support all kinds of Linux, for example. This is Linux we support for... What did I just do there? Didn't you? We can look after all kinds of Linux, Novell, Red Hat, AIX, HP UX, Solaris, and others. So it's a different list than what we can support when we virtualize, Simon. But we can monitor these various virtual machines. Okay. Of course, just being able to see them out on the network isn't is only part of the story. The other thing we need to be able to understand is application performance issues. And when it comes to applications, it's important to understand that the response time that a user sees is actually comprised of several different things, which can involve completely different parts of the IT department. So if I look at a particular application that I've got running here, you can see we've got some color coding going on there. But what you can also see just underneath the little pink stripe in the middle there, there's a little red line. And if I just zoom in a little bit, we can see that's when we were supposed to hit, that's the service level agreement that we've defined.
Right.
We've overshot the mark a bit there, Simon.
So we're currently not providing the level of service that we agreed back to the business? Okay.
No. So the user was expecting 500 milliseconds response time, and we've actually come back in 1300 milliseconds. So
okay, so that obviously tells us that we need to start looking into those performance issues, do something to improve the performance of that particular part of the infrastructure at this point.
Yeah, so we need to drill into this and see what's going on. Now the color coding is giving us some clues. We've got, what's the matter with my eyesight today? So we've got the expected response, we've then got the threshold, we've got the response afterwards. So we then want to actually kind of work out what's going on. But probably the first thing we want to do at this point anyway is say, raise a ticket.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so operations manager doesn't, well, what you do with operations manager integrating with service manager is that you go into service manager and you create a connector to operations manager for alert incidents.
So when service manager spots an alert that's been raised by operations manager, that will raise an incident into our system.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. And then obviously we need to think about, well, who does that get? Who gets the answer? Now, the challenge we've got here is we're not quite sure who the problem is. Is it an infrastructure problem? Is it a network problem? Or is it the fault of the developers? But I would submit that something's changed, because if the code was within inside SLA, it's probably not the developer's fault, unless we've just released a new version. So they need to have a look at this, and we can get into arguments, particularly if we have just done an upgrade of an application, about, well, it's working fine in our test environment.
Why isn't it working in production? Yeah, absolutely.
Have you given it enough memory? Yeah, we've given it enough memory. Is it running on fastest? Did you re-index the disk? Did you follow the deployment guide that we sent you? Yeah, we had a quick look at it.
Yep.
And so it goes on. So we can see there are going to be all kinds of conflicts there, unless we have an unambiguous view, which we do in this case, of actually what's going on. So actually, before I go to that slide, Simon, it's probably we could probably dig into that. So have we got this kind of yeah, I've kind of got the things the wrong way up. So actually, what we'll do is we'll just go through how to set that up, then we'll show you how to set it up, and then we'll show you monitoring. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. Yeah. So you go into application monitoring here, and you define obviously you define the application to monitor. It doesn't have to be a .NET application; it could be a Java application, but they're discovered through the standard .NET application management pack, if that's what you've absolutely got set up. Now, if you do server-side monitoring, you've only got a limited amount of information to you. And what we have had for some time in Operations Manager is the business of creating synthetic transactions. So you can fake logging onto a website, for example. You might have in a branch office environment, you might have a server that you could put the Operations Manager agent onto, and it would try and log into the head office every day and tell you how it was doing, and it would alert you that way. But what we're talking about here is this is actually the live application running. So what we want to be able to do is to set client-side performance monitoring. Okay, and that's the secret sauce of this. And this is actually an acquisition that was made called Avicode. Before it was a separate company, we've acquired it, and it had its own agent. What we've done now is we've taken that Avicode technology, put it into Operations Manager on the back end, and put the agent into the Operations Manager agent. So it's a little bigger, but it's just something you then configure without charging you anything for it, because so you don't have to go and buy that third-party tool now. It's actually in here. So what we can do then is, having set that up, is then we can get into the trending, and we can see a couple of graphs up here, but I'm going to bring them up on my machine. Is there any way we can zoom it on that thing while I'm... No, okay, we've tried. Okay. So the point here is that on this graph we're looking at on the right-hand side of the screen is we're looking at the most common incidents, and we're looking at the at what's going on and then categorizing them and then drilling down into what the biggest areas of the problem are. And this in this web console, which is called the Application Advisor. So when you install Operations Manager, you set this website up that can be seen by anybody that you delegate permissions to, and away you go. We'll just have a little. We'll have a little look at that in a minute, potentially. Doable?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we done? Okay, right. So first of all, what I thought I'd do is I'd quickly go and set this up. For a ching.
So we're back into your remote demo environment again.
Yep, that looks like this one. Yep, that's good. And we can now zoom, can we?
Okay.
You just tried to zoom, it doesn't
I
zoom.
just tried to zoom and it won't zoom. So.
Oh, how annoying. Right, okay. So I go into the management pack for .NET application performance. What is it I want to monitor? And you can see my choices here. So I can look at JEE, data monitoring and OLEDB. Well, you can read this list as well as I can, hopefully, if you're looking at this. Perhaps you can see this at the back there, can't you? Yeah, good. We give it a name. Customer demographics. We're calling it the application monitoring, application performance monitoring name. We could put any knowledge articles in here if it's an in-house app or what have you, or only article if it's a third party. Obviously, there's nothing. You don't have to have the source code to do this, Simon.
Absolutely. So we could actually be layering over our own internal knowledge base to say, if we start seeing alerts because this service is slow, this is the kind of thing to go and do in order to troubleshoot and move forward with that.
Yeah, but what I also meant was if you bought a compiled application, say an accounting system or an ERP system from company X, you could still do application monitoring on this. You don't need the source code of the app.
Absolutely.
So that's
yes.
So they might have given you some knowledge about this stuff.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, if anybody listening to this is an ISV writing software, you might want to turn on application monitoring in Ops Manager before you release the pack. A, to see how well it's performing, and B, so you don't get any phone calls saying, did you know, by the way, that your DOM model is like huge and it's taking ages to load, and why is it like that? So you can counter those arguments yourselves, yeah? So we then choose the application components we want to include in here. So we're searching for the web application components here. We just type in a filter customer. There's our customer demographics website. Add that in. Thank you very much. Okay. Next. We then can turn on event monitoring, exception event alerts. We can set threshold that 1500
milliseconds.
Looks like 15 seconds response time.
Yep,
15,000 milliseconds there.
Obviously specified in milliseconds.
Zeros, yeah. We'll just change that to 500 because that's ridiculous. 500 milliseconds is fine on our network. Fine. We then put in the server-side customization that we want to do. And in here we can put in various thresholds. You can see this form. I'll just quickly knock through this, hit chunk through that. We can put on what IP addresses we're going to be talking to this machine on, although this is itself. Kind of odd. Let's change all this. Okay, we've got that set. Fine. Turn it on. Finish. Next. Done.
All configured.
So that's how we set it up. What we need to do then is actually look at how we're going to change it. So you just need to set that up on there, Simon. And I need to just dive onto here for a minute. Where are we? We're on that one. That's it. Go for your life. So just sort of just nip back through here for a minute. So that's the configuration that we've just done here, essentially. No, look on this. Sorry about this, just getting Simon to queue this up for me. Thank you. Yep. What was I going to say? So, a good example of where application monitoring is used, while I just get this set up, is that the Xbox team use it. So they are receiving all this code from all these different developers. They need to make sure Xbox is live. I'm not sure if it actually influenced Microsoft's purchase decision to get it, but what they needed to understand was where the fabric was causing issues and where maybe new applications were causing the issues. That's I've got a bunch of my colleagues upstairs who are sitting here watching, I think it's 5,000 servers with AviCode. So it scales really well, and the key point about this is it doesn't significantly impact the performance of the application itself. It's in the .NET world, perhaps the easiest one to understand. It's intercepting the calls between the .NET framework and the it just intercepts those .NET calls, so you don't have to open the code, you don't have to have the source code. It just sort of sits there and absolutely runs. That's what I'm looking for. Sorry, I think we're nearly ready now. Sorry, I was just having a bit of trouble getting into the website that we're looking at. So I can have a mouthful of my coffee while I'm waiting. Okay. Right, we might come back to that in a minute. It's just taking a little bit longer.
You come back to that in a second. Let me just fix this.
There might be a dialog box open behind there somewhere, or something that's lost the where the website is. Just dive through these slides again. So one of the things I like about System Center generally is that it builds on top of the BI stack that's inside. It builds on top of the BI stack that's inside SQL Server, so you're using reporting services, and in some cases you're also able to leverage the power of analysis services that's inside SQL Server, OLAP and so on and so forth. So we've got separate dashboarding built into Operations Manager, and then we can actually expose that to the user so they can get their own reports up, and we might have a look at that one too in a minute, Simon. So I think we're ready now.
We are, yep. If you want to switch on over to our other input there. Right.
This is a scarily good-looking tool from the System Center suite. So this is the application monitoring portal that you can see up on the screen here. And we've got a whole different sort of set of reports and so on and so forth in here. If I'm just going to whiz around these and show you them quickly, and then what I want to be able to do then is just go into here and put some times in. I've actually had to set my clock back because I'm running eval editions of System Center 2012. And then what I do is I apply those time filters for the data that I've actually got reports for, and I get up a report that looks like this. So you can see this is what I had on my slide earlier. The large blue bar here is showing me my actual where I've exceeded the performance threshold, and the pink stuff at the top is actual application errors. So I'm kind of getting this lot of events going on. And these are the different servers that I'm running on. So if I dig into that a little bit now, we can see my 5 servers. And if I set my focus onto my production environment here, you can see I'm getting 1,200 failures and nearly 5,500 performance issues. And we're now actually at the bottom of the screen here just got the drilling into the reason for that now, so we can actually have a look and see what's going on here. So it looks like the web service is the problem. So just go back up again. I can't get to the top. Get off. Get up to the top of this. So server 1, the trade business server contract application, seems to be the main culprit here as far as performance is concerned. And then I can dig into the individual events and see what's going on. So each one of these is showing up in the graph above there. And for my 1,500 errors that I had. Now I don't claim to be a developer, but it looks like, so these are the performance issues on this particular service. But that looks like we're seeing, well, just general performance problems. So we probably want to do now is actually dig in to the actual code and see what's going on here. And we can see that WCF is taking 1,200 milliseconds to do that get closed orders function. Okay. So this is get closed orders. And now I can go and start having a word with the guys about the get closed orders
saved function.
what the
inside
hell's
SQL.
going on there? What happened to that function when we released the new version? What's going on there? So, and actually you can integrate the telemetry that's coming out of here with Team Foundation Server if you have an in-house
So
development
we can
team.
start to push bugs directly back into Team Foundation Server if that's
Yeah.
what they need in order to be able to move forward.
Yeah, yeah. So some quite clever stuff going on there. We've then got the so the client page is DOM loading in here. So this is showing you for particular the breakdown of that time slice that I had earlier. We've got that 150. We've got a slightly different time threshold here, and if we go down the page here, we can see what's causing that, which is the DOM loading, which is a fairly common issue. We can see when it's happening and the sort of precedence of the processes as they go on. So you've got really detailed telemetry built into this, and all you've got to do is throw a few switches in Operations Manager and point it at the application you've deployed.
Ah, excellent.
So, and you can do the same kind of thing in Java, although I haven't got a Java demo here, Simon. Okay, so we just about got through some of that. I have done quite a few demos. I'm just trying to think if there's something else I can show. Maybe what we'll do is we'll get coffee and I'll
absolutely,
queue
yeah.
up
Let's
a couple more.
Get to coffee and we'll queue up another couple of bits and bobs so that we can